right. Hello, Hedera community. Welcome. My name is Zenobia Godschalk. I am the SVP of Communications here at Hedera. We have a special session today. So we've had a lot of questions on the town halls and elsewhere about how we do our marketing and how we market at Hedera in this fascinating industry that we are in. So we wanted to take a little bit of time to explain our approach to marketing. We had a question from last month on, hey, I'm a longtime marketer. At first, I didn't understand what you were doing, but now I see your unique way of marketing that is a little bit different. It focuses on examples, it highlights real life use cases, and it's not hype, but it is everything from branding and use cases and community that is meaningful. So what we thought we'd do today is bring on Christian Hasker, our CMO and my boss, to talk a little bit about what we do and the method behind the madness. Hi, Christian.
Hi, Zenobia. Great to be here. Thank you, community, for watching this. You know, we love talking about what we do, why we do it, how we do it. So let's spend a few minutes.
All right. So the Simon Sinek School of Marketing, you know, the art and science of it talks about the why. And, you know, when we start with the why, we always want to start with who's our audience? Who are we marketing to? So Christian, can you share a little bit about, you know, who you think about as that target audience who we're trying to reach with our marketing?
Yes, absolutely. So if you took away the cryptocurrency for a second, you know, we're in a very interesting new market, but let's set aside the cryptocurrency. What is it that Hedera has? It is infrastructure. It's infrastructure that looks a lot like an operating system in the traditional world or a database in the traditional world. So in and of itself, infrastructure underpins, it's foundational to the applications that are built on top of it. As a user, how do you interact with an operating system? It's through an application. How do you interact with a database? It's through an application. And actually, you don't know behind the scenes what the infrastructure is. It should just be seamless. It should enable the things that you want to do. So when we think about our core target audience, who is it that builds applications? It's application developers. So we need to appeal to application developers. We need to educate the market over the capabilities of Hedera, which then makes it easier for them to achieve their goals. So application developers, and then very importantly, the entrepreneurs, the business leaders that are thinking about ways to either improve existing business practices or disrupt existing businesses. So those are our two primary audiences.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of education that has to happen to those folks, right? There's sort of an education in terms of, can you hear the dog panting?
So great, we should leave it in. This is amazing.
Okay, he's comfortably sitting on my feet now, so we can continue. Right. And you know, I think there's a lot of education to people who are in existing roles. They're doing their day jobs. They are trying to think about how to innovate, but they need some help getting there, right? They need those materials delivered to them, and they need them, you know, shared, and they need some of that explanation. They don't have the time to, you know, to go and figure out everything in the ecosystem. We want to make it super simple for them to get that information that they need. And Lehman and Mance, you know, have often talked about this being a 100-year company and the trust layer of the internet. And those are big ideas. Those are long-term ideas. Those are things that we believe will have a tremendous amount of value creation. How does that affect the way that we as Hedera market?
So I could not be more thankful for that long-term vision. And in fact, it is the reason that I'm here. You know, that was the final selling point for me, because when you have a long-term goal, then you focus on doing the right things. So as you said, education is so important, but to educate someone, have them come up with an idea, build that idea, test that idea, deploy that idea to production, gain momentum around that idea, is not a months-long process. That can be a years-long process. And when you talk about enterprise, like we have on our council, you can, enterprise sales cycles, development cycles, it might be 3 years to take that idea into production. So when you think about 100 years, 3 years is nothing. But in the crypto industry, 3 years is, like 100 years, it feels like sometimes. But Mance and Lehman keep us laser focused on that. Our council members keep us laser focused on that, putting the right building blocks in place so that we have a very sustainable business model over time. And you're starting to see the fruits of that labor. We have more use cases in the market than any other public ledger out there being used by real businesses to solve real business problems. And what this does is it creates a virtuous cycle, because let's say you're in supply chain and you read a use case that's deployed on Hedera and you think, wow, they're solving some problems that I have. I'm going to build that on Hedera. And then just yesterday, we announced, a great new area for Hedera in gaming with Animoca brands. So they're going to do some really advanced stuff. They're going to deploy a game. They're going to solve the problem of cheating on scoreboards, which I didn't know was such a widespread industry problem. Now you're going to have other gaming organizations say, wow, they solved this amazing problem on Hedera. I'll solve it on Hedera. And we can go industry by industry, application by application, and see these patterns emerging.
And I think, we've both earned our white hairs. I mean, I color mine different colors depending on what the Hedera background is. But, we've seen this happen with other industries, with other pieces of enterprise software. They buy based on what their peers are doing. There is this concern that I don't want to be left out. I want to be innovative and I want to make sure that I'm doing the right things, but I also don't want to bet on something that nobody else in my industry has looked at. And so I think when we talk to these brands, it really is incredible how much they say, gosh, I've looked at what Suku has done in the space, or I've looked at what Everywhere in healthcare has done in the space. And those bring a level of trust because those kinds of people can have those conversations. They can go and talk, healthcare, and then blockchain and distributed ledger is just a part of that, where they can talk supply chain, and the lingo and the language that they're using is already familiar. They already have that same dialogue, and then they can say, this is how we're doing it. Similar with some of the banks, I think we have had conversations with folks who have that comfort in knowing, gosh, let me see what other people have done. And it's such a joy when we're able to connect those people and they instantly have, a dialogue and an understanding and a conversation that has been much, much sped up because they've read about what others are doing on Hedera. They have an understanding there. And then, again, kudos to our developer advocates team as well, who just helps people, understand those things and connect them together and say, oh, here's something somebody else in your industry is doing.
Yeah, and as you were talking, it really is important to highlight Hedera isn't just about these large enterprises. The startup community that can move so fast, have an idea, build it, deploy it, test it, iterate on it, do something else. They are fundamental to the overall success of any infrastructure software. If we think back not that many years ago to the public cloud, you had large enterprises saying, I'll never deploy, ever deploy in a public cloud. We're worried about security, blah, 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 blah. Along comes Netflix in Amazon Web Services, disrupts the whole video rental market, going all in on that. And now everyone's scrambled to catch up. And now it's not even a thought about deploying in a public cloud. We're going to see the same thing here. There are startups building on Hedera today that are the next Netflixes of their industry. And they're going to chart the path and lead the way that will have everyone saying, wow, I have to do that too. And, you know, it's so exciting. I know you've been in the industry a long time, as you said, and you've seen these patterns, you know, repeat themselves. And again, you know, from the outside in, if I put my community hat on, I'm like, oh, I want Hedera to be doing like A network, B network, C network, just talking about HBAR, really, our cryptocurrency. But it's not about HBAR, it's about the technology, what it enables, the governance model, what you can solve on the platform, and then the rest of it will take care of itself, no doubt in my mind.
All right. So if it's not HBAR, then how do you measure success? What are some of the KPIs that you and I and the marketing team here at Hedera, you know, are striving for?
Yeah. So, you know, Lehman created a distributed ledger technology that has incredibly high throughput and incredibly low latency. So if you look across the public ledger space, that sort of sets itself apart. So transactions on the network are a primary metric for us, because for the sustainable business model of Hedera, we need to do thousands of transactions per second with these tiny fees that are pegged to the dollar. So we don't have these wildly varying gas fees like you do on other networks. So you got to do tons of these things to actually make it sustaining and profitable over time. And so that is a laser focus for us, finding the types of applications that are high throughput, low latency applications. And everyone in the community should be really proud that in just 1.5 years, we achieved more real transactions on the network than Ethereum has done in 5.5 years. And that isn't an accident. That's because of the vision that Lehman had and Mance is putting in place, and the types of applications that we're attracting that just aren't possible on other networks. So that's really cool. So that's the primary metric. But then obviously we're entering a new phase with tokenization. Hedera Token Service came out this year. We're seeing a huge adoption wave in the market of non-fungible tokens. So another metric that we are focused on is the number and variety of tokens minted on Hedera and the number of accounts that hold those tokens and can transact with those tokens. And, you know, we're starting to see an adoption wave. We're a little bit further behind, obviously, than on the transaction volume, because Hedera Consensus Service has been in the market longer than Hedera Token Service. But with Hedera Token Service, we're also catching an amazing wave. As a marketer, if the industry sits up and says, that thing is not environmentally friendly, maybe you shouldn't be using that thing for tokenization, look for things that have a very low, you know, footprint, carbon footprint. And guess what? That's Hedera. You know, we didn't plan that, obviously, but now we get to surf that wave, which is wonderful. And I know, you know, you did a lot around Earth Week that even preempted some of what we're seeing in the market right now, which was just great timing. Well done.
Thank you. Well, I think, you know, I'm going to botch the saying, but it is, you know, it is like luck equals hard work plus timing meeting together, right? So I think we do try to focus on what are the key differentiators for Hedera, and we continue to pitch those out in the market. And I think you start to see when the market catches up with some of those, then we are ready and we are primed and we already have those stories and we've been building those stories. So it's so much easier for us to get in front of those and go back to people and go back to whether that's the media or, you know, promotional campaigns or developers and say, you know, look, we have been telling you this story. The rest of the market is now catching up, but, you know, whether it's being green or whether it is security and privacy or whether it is number of transactions, all those, there are so many different criteria on which we try to explain to the market our differentiators. And I think the nice part is, because there is substance behind them, then when the market catches up, we're able to quickly hit them with it.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. And I do feel fortunate in some ways, but as you said, it's by design, right? It's no accident. And other organizations that try to play the Me Too and don't have it underpinned with real world use cases and credibility, maybe they'll catch a little bit of hype, but it's soon going to dissipate. And I love that saying from the community. You and I did not come up with it, by the way, but all substance, no hype. As a team, we talk about that all the time. It really resonates with us.
Right. And I will say there is one other metric which I use, which is the 10-year-old boy coolness factor. So when I tell my kids that, their favorite, football club in the UK, or an NBA player, or they didn't know who the Sheikah of Bahrain was, but, when all these people are engaged with us and we're having conversations with them, and I can share that with them, it makes that, it makes it real to them. And for that to be real to that generation, I think is incredible.
That does not happen with traditional enterprise software, right? We have conversations that we've never had before in our lives.
That's right. So we have a lot of fun things that we get to work with, but can you talk a little bit about some of the constraints that we are under? Because, again, building that 100-year company, making sure we are that trust layer of the future, we are focused on doing things a certain way.
Yes, so we talk with legal a lot. So everything we put out into the market goes through legal. We have an amazing legal team headed by Natalie. She is fantastic. Her team is highly responsive, because we have to get messaging into the market quickly sometimes, and they're never a bottleneck for us. And that's wonderful. But we are hand in glove, because we are on the bleeding edge of a new technology in a new market with a new economic model. And that comes with a lot of regulatory constraints. Again, when you're building a 100-year company, you do the right things up front that aren't going to bite you down the road. And I'm so thankful for the path they've put us on. But if you're in the community, sometimes you're just like, why isn't Hedera, you look at, again, this network, that network, this network, that network, and you're like, why isn't Hedera doing those things? Why? And it is because of this regulatory environment. And everyone needs to remember, as Hedera, we are the brands on the council. These are large enterprises that have spent years building reputable brands in the market, which is so hard to do and so easy to evaporate overnight. So we take that very, very seriously. We want their marketing teams, their comms teams, to look at what we do on the Hedera side and actually say, wow, that's as good, if not better, than our own marketing. And we take pride in doing that. So I do appreciate in the community, sometimes it's hard to understand why we're not doing the same things as everyone else, but we do take regulation incredibly seriously. We do take the brands of our council members incredibly seriously. But what I want to reassure everyone of is the things that other networks do are easy. That is easy marketing. Here's my coin, stake my coin, give me a return. Here's my node, run my node, give me a return. That's easy. When the regulatory environment is right and we feel comfortable and the council feels comfortable, we can do all of those things. No problem. But other networks cannot flip a switch overnight and have hundreds of use cases solving real problems for real businesses on their network. So rest assured, community, when the time is right, we'll get there. and we'll do it right. And, you know, it'll be fun. It's a fun ride.
It sure is. Christian, one last thing before we wrap. You know, what can the community do? They are already so amazing. They're so large. They're growing so fast. We have people who have been with us since the beginning, and we have people who are new to the community. So for both of those sets of audiences, you know, how can they spread the word? What kinds of things can they do? What would you love to see the community engaged with?
So we do have an amazing community. I know you and I have worked with different technology communities over the years, and what the Hedera community is very special. Passionate, really well educated. They know a lot about Hedera. You know, the depth of knowledge is incredible. And so educating an entire market, we cannot do as Hedera. Being a decentralized network, we're never going to be a big team. We're going to be small and lean because everything should be decentralized. And a lot of that means decentralizing your marketing. So I would say the community is already doing the right things. They are thoughtful, they engage in, you know, on Twitter, in Telegram, on Reddit, and it's all about educating people, because the broader market is just getting their head around blockchain, right, in its infancy. And then along comes something else that isn't blockchain and says, we're way better than blockchain. You know, that's hard, and it takes some time. So keep doing what you're doing. Amplify the messages from Hedera. You know, everyone you tell about Hedera, it probably will take them 10 to 20 times to hear about Hedera before the penny drops. So don't just think saying it once is going to get it done. It's a relentless message that is consistent that will win people over time. Take the critiques, you know, be empathetic to someone that's like, you know, oh, Hedera's so different. They're not doing this, they're not doing that. Yes, by design. And then take the time, and we have some great resources on hedera.com, which you should leverage. Anything there is fair game. And then there are things that the community can do that we just can't do, right? We can't lobby for exchanges, for example, to list HBAR. You know, we have to talk to our legal team. They'll say, Zenobia, maybe that's a wrong message. So there are just things that we're constrained by that the community isn't constrained by. And I'm seeing, as you are, tons of innovative ideas. And that makes me so excited. And then we actually action ideas that come from the community. The charity auction that's being built on Hedera, that hopefully will be next month, that was an idea from the community. The idea about tagging the hats with Avery Dennison near-field communication tags and using Suku, which are on their way to the store, that was an idea from the community. These are really cool things. There are other ideas we can't action, but keep the ideation coming. And when we can, we will put it into place. We have a great community, actually, that knows the depths of our website really well. And you send us feedback on the website. We tweak messaging and copy based on that. And so, you know, we're all part of a giant team is how I feel. And that team is just growing exponentially this year. You know, man said the year of scale. Our collective marketing team is scaling beautifully. So congratulations, well done. And we're so thankful and appreciative.
We really are. And I do want to call out, you know, I think the other thing to consider is media is a virtuous cycle. So I think you saw that, you know, Mance recently did the interview with Real Vision. This community got behind it, promoted it. All those publications, they are, you know, they are businesses. They are run like businesses. They need eyeballs. They need subscribers. They need revenue. So to see that journalists say, wow, you know, the Hedera community really got behind this and they're incredible. And, you know, they are top notch, definitely helps us, because they're people too, right? They remember that, they like to see that. And again, virtuous cycle. So thank you, Christian. Community, please, as you have other questions, feel free to submit them for the town halls. We will try to answer any that we can, but we hope this has been a helpful overview of marketing. Have a great one.
Thank you, Zenobia. Thank you, community.